Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's so wonderful to see you all here. Everyone that cares about our children, I love that. My name is Mrs. Beal. I'm the Wadsworth City Schools Prevention Specialist. Austin is doing your videotaping for us this evening. Thank you. We appreciate that. My co-presenter here is Mr. Luthman. He really has the heart of this program. He's going to give you all the nuts and bolts and the details. And my job, as most of you know and know me, is the doom and gloom part of things. So I'm going to try to make it not quite so bad. So we know that social media is here to stay. In fact, 5 years ago, we had Jessie Weinberger come into our schools. In fact, she stood right on the stage. Maybe some of you were here to hear her presentation to the parents after she presented to our students. And what really stuck with me about that, and what kind of leads me in this social media journey, is that she asked all of our 7th graders and all of our 8th graders one question. Do you wish social media was never created? 100% of their hands went up in the air. And I was kind of shocked and flabbergasted because personally I like social media. And I was really surprised at their reaction to that and really thought to myself, wow, we really need to make sure that we're keeping our students safe. We're empowering them to make great choices with their social media and on the internet. So that's where this all came from this evening. All right, very good. So I'm going to kind of refer back to this social media agreement a few times. So a social media agreement at the very end of my presentation, and Phil's going to post all these presentations for you, is an entire sheet of resources. So almost everything that I talk about is going to be on that resource page, and they're all live links. So you just have to click on it, and then you can read it. So there's a family social media agreement there that you can click to and spend some time educating each other and talking a little bit about that. I'm going to refer back to that several times. All right, so mental health concerns. We know that social media, even according to our students and our staff and our parents, has good, bad, and the ugly, right? So some of the bad or the ugly part of that is indeed the mental health concerns and the mental health issues. Currently, Seattle School Systems is actually suing TikTok and Instagram for the mental health concerns that they're seeing in their students. Those concerns that they're seeing are depression and anxiety. And it's overwhelming their school support staff with that, and they're having to do extra trainings and extra work with that. We're seeing that in our school system as well, right? We see that across the board as far as anxiety, not only about what's on social media and being part of that, but also about being separated from it, and some of the anxiety that comes from that. We can also talk about the dopamine, and I think Mr. Luthman is going to talk about this too, as far as those notifications and getting those alarms. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about boundaries and limits and how we can help our students to set those and what they look like at the parent side of things, what they look like at the student side of things, so that we can help them to be the best social media consumers that they can be. All right? Cyberbullying has been around now. I feel like we've been talking about it. Again, this is a teamwork thing that we're working with our students on, and you're working with your student at home on. That agreement, that ability to talk back and forth about that. One of the things that students tell me all the time, don't tell my parents, I can't tell anybody, because the biggest threat out there is that you'll take their phone, right? They'll have that social isolation. The students call it FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, which is truly a thing. It's a big thing about being separated, about not being able to be connected with their people and know what's going on. So we need to create that trust and that relationship so that we can build that, so that we can get to the part where our students, according to the social media agreement, know they can come to you, right, when there's a problem and what the consequences will be. Because you agreed on them together, right? You've agreed on whether this happened as an accident or what that might look like. Currently, we're dealing with a pretty big issue, sextortion, and it's concerning. So what this is our students, and we know that predators will come anywhere children are. So if they're in video games, if they're online, if they're in chat rooms, if they're on these social media apps, that's where the predators are going to be. And so what sextortion means is that the students are doing their thing, and the two that have happened in Ohio have not even been from the United States. They live out of country. And they befriend them, right? They get into their contacts and get into being a friend of them, and they mold them. and they send them an inappropriate picture of themselves. So they're an adult, and they might pose as a young person, it doesn't really matter, and they send them a picture of themselves. And then they make it so that that person feels like they should send a picture of themselves to them. And the minute that occurs, then they extort them, right? They ask them for $500. The child says, I can't pay $500. Okay, pay me $100. If you don't pay me, then I'm going to send this to everybody in your contacts. I'm going to send it to everybody on your social media. I'm going to send it to your parents. And without the communication and the trust and the social media agreement in place, this has become a big issue for our students. Unfortunately, in Streetsboro, we had a student complete suicide within 24 hours of the sex workshop. Olentangy had an issue within maybe even an hour of them getting this communication. So we really want to talk with our students about the dangers that are out there, right? To make sure that we're aware and we have those perimeters and those contacts blocked, right? And that we know what's happening on their social media apps. Another thing that students tell me all the time, and I'm working on this myself as a mother of older children, that role model behavior. As we go through this today, and as Mr. Luthman does his spiel, I want you to be thinking about your own social media use, right? I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not judging, I have the same kind of thing. I want you to think about it. There's nothing wrong with good TikTok. I watch a TikTok on cooking, and pretty soon I'm like 3 in, right? You just go down that rabbit hole. They have those great algorithms that just suck you in. They know you, right? They get to know what your likes are, and they continue to play that for you. So we're talking about good role model behavior. I went to lunch the other day with 4 women my age, and all 4 of us had our phones upside down on the table. The minute one of them vibrated, everybody looked. Right? We're programmed, right? That's where that anxiety comes from. That's where that dopamine comes from. What's a notification? Where is it? What is happening with this? Sometimes our students also have the misconception that things that are online don't stay forever. They tell me, Snapchat, it just goes away, or this goes away. That is not true, right? Maybe I couldn't find it, but I'm going to bet Mr. Luthman could, right? It's on a server, and it's out there somewhere. And so we have to be thinking about their digital footprint. We have to educate them on what they're leaving as far as their path goes, what future employers are looking at, what future colleges might be looking at, right? What they can see of what they have posted, right? And that starts. I kind of like that meme that says, thank goodness Facebook wasn't around when I was in high school. All right, but the unfortunate part, Beth, is our students are dealing with that. They have that every day. And that's why putting limits on all that social media, they want that. That's helpful for them to not have to be always on, right? Always having that anxiety. I know we've all heard of like the Tide Pod Challenge and all of those social media challenges. We could never stay on top of that. Right now there's a jump challenge. What we really want to do is educate our students that no matter what comes down the pike, right, no matter what's on social media. I remembered there was this big, conspiracy theory about the earth being flat not long ago. We need to educate them as to where they're getting their information from, right? We need to educate them as to what social media means, who's writing it, right? Who are the influencers? Who are they following? Excuse me. All right, so there's a document attached to this that's called Wait Until 8th, right? 8th grade for cell phones, and it talks a little bit about what the requirements are. And we all love our kids. I love my students I can't even explain to you how I would never want any harm to come to them. In fact, our state, we do such a great job with our kids. We don't want them to get behind the wheel of a car, right? Until they pass the test. They have to ride with an instructor. They have to ride with their parents for so many hours. Yada, yada, yada. And then we say, all right, we trust you. We've seen how you behave. We've seen what happens. You can drive. And I'm still going to monitor you. I'm still going to watch you, right? And we still want to make sure you're making good choices. But we trust you to drive. Unfortunately, and whether it's because adults aren't exactly sure all the ins and outs of cell phones, or the new ones, I feel like there's always something new and there's always new technology, that sometimes these students are just given a cell phone and they just have free reign. Well, the unfortunate part about that is that you really have so much power in your hand, and it's hard to be able to limit them. It's hard to be able to, at their age, with their brain development, be able to make those good choices, right? We already kind of talked about them not wanting their phone taken away, and when they get it for that first time, and if there's no limits on it, and they can do any apps they want, there's going to be problems. At the end of this, there's an article from Josh Oakes, and he does a whole big site on social media. Some of it is paid, and some of it is not paid. The one article that I put on there for you talks about the 100 top apps for students, and it rates them with colors, and talks about what they do, and what their design is, and all kinds of stuff. And that would be my suggestion, right? That social media agreement, what apps can you have? What are you using them for, right? Go through the steps. Why are you using social media? What is it doing for you? Why do you need that? Also, is your educational things done first? Is our family time done first? Have you been outside, right? Have you been able to do all those things that normally help you? There's also alternatives. There's an article on this too. So we don't have to go straight. I'm trying to, make it for all ages. We don't have to go straight to the smartphone. There's ways that we can text message and do messages with this Gizmo watch and all those types of different things that are available that we might not be aware of. Okay, so most apps have the age requirement of 13 years old. Now, we all know that there's get-arounds and birthdays and different things that we can do and email addresses. But we really need to be aware of what apps they're looking at, what content they can see on those apps, and I know Bill's going to talk a little bit more about that. What I see here at school is that students have more than one Insta account. They have more than one Snapchat. And so what happens is they set one up with their parents, and then their parents have one password for that, or their parents follow them. And I need to give you a little disclaimer about following. When you follow one of their apps, you don't see everything that they see, and you don't see all the things that they can do with the chats and the different parts of that. So following it is always the best idea, right? We're looking at them daily and actually being a user on that. All right. They also use other people's phones. Mr. Ryder's in our audience, and he can attest to this as well. At the middle school, we took their phones away. What was that? 4 years ago, maybe. And during class time, and boy, was it difficult. You really saw the addiction to their phone. You saw the addiction to those messages, those notifications. You really saw that they felt that they were missing out on what was happening. And we tried to explain to them that all of their friends were in the same classes with them. Nobody had their phone. Nobody was doing anything. And after maybe 2 weeks of that, they really settled into it, and they enjoyed it, and they thought it was great not to have their phones on them. It was like relief. One of the things I want to challenge you to tonight is thinking about taking a vacation from cell phones. Now, I'm not talking about emails. I work here, that would not be good, right? So I'm not talking about emails, and I'm not talking about text messages. I'm just talking about social media. What if you took a 7-day vacation? I included an article on this that gives you kind of the step-by-step way to do that. So you can monitor how you're using social media, how your family is using social media, and what that looks like for you. All right, there you go. So what students are saying is they really do want you to take control. They really do want limited. They don't want to have to spend all day subject to peer pressure, all day with that dopamine levels of likes and not likes, negative comments, positive comments, right, with that heightened anxiety level, right? They want to get their academic activities done first, right? So we're thinking a little bit about that. I included an article in here on blue light negativity and how that affects the brain and their bodies. Mrs. Capacco today had her blue light glasses on when we had our meeting this morning. So just read through some of that. Think a little bit about what those devices are doing, maybe an hour before bed, and not in their bedrooms. So one of the things school counselors are telling me is that when students have their phones in their bedrooms, they are constantly being notified, right? And so they're not getting a good night's sleep. Chat rooms are huge, right? And we can have chat on Messenger, we can have it on, on any of the apps. And what happens is there's a large group, one thing happens, whether it's bullying or negativity or what have you, and then they're out, right? Now we have drama, now we have a thing, and now they're not getting a good night's sleep. So they asked me to tell you, please, no cell phones in the bedroom. That was one of the important things that they felt was really negatively impacting their students. Mr. Luthman's going to talk a lot to you about how you can set limits for time on certain social apps. I know that apps now can say, this is the screen time that you're on, and that the screen time is up, right? That you're getting close to the end of that screen time. At the very end of this, Mr. Luthman and I will take questions. This is the technology resources that you're going to see. This bit link up top is going to be Mr. Luthman's presentation, and his will have the links in it as well that will be live that you can go to. All right? All right, thank you, Mr. Luthman. All you.
Well, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm going to position this microphone so you can actually hear me, but it's not right in front of my face at the same time. So, we're trying. All right. So, a little bit about who I am. I'm the Director of Technology for our school district here. And I write on here, technology is actually my hobby, which is true. I'm one of the luckiest people in the world because what I get to do for a living is actually what I do in my free time. It's very strange. I tell my kids, not everybody is as lucky as Dad is to be able to get paid by doing stuff that you like in general. But it's pretty special. It's a neat combination. I've been doing this for about 28 years. So I started in college. I live in Kent. Gosh, it's a long way away. It's actually not too bad. It's all highway, so no problem. I'm married. My wife and I, this year is our 20th wedding anniversary, which we're really happy about. And my wife and I, we have 2 kids. One is in high school, our son, and our daughter is in middle school. So you'll see a change up here from me and then also reflected in the slides that we're going to talk about what we do in our school district to keep your kids safe with the school technology, with your students. And then you'll see a shift. And then I'll be in parent mode, and we're going to talk about our children. So you'll see that in a few moments. So piggybacking on what Beth said, social media by design is addictive. You might have heard of this. It might be just the common vernacular, but I just want you to know that it is by design. Programmers actually, here's an article that I linked to, and everything that you see in here is linked out to other resources, and you'll have this whole presentation that Instagram or Facebook intentionally designed to mimic addictive painkillers is crazy, right? But again, triggering dopamine release, what does that do? That controls pleasure, satisfaction, motivation. And when that's released, you get a rush of that, and it feels good, and kids want it again. It makes sense that they do. And so that's why these apps are designed this way, but not just apps. And so I say on here, search Google for, are smartphones designed to be addictive? Well, you bet. There's another article right here that says, dopamine, smartphones, and you, a battle for your time. And so again, the designers of our phones, it's also designed to make it sticky, to make you want to go back to it again and again and again. So at least we know that that's what we're up against, right? And there are positives of social media, and there are also negatives, and it's good to understand that they can be used for good too. So, but let's get one thing out of the way. And I think that us as parents, we don't always do the best job at it. And I include myself in that, is emotional self-regulation. And what does this mean? We can't expect our students to have the same capabilities as adults when it comes to self-regulation. What do I mean by this? You might be saying to your high schooler or your middle schooler or your elementary school child, why can't you just stop looking at that? You need to do your homework. Why can't you do this? And we treat our kids like they have the faculties of an adult when it comes to self-regulation. And newsflash, they don't. They really don't. So emotional self-regulation, making those choices of what's appropriate and what's not in society, they're on a path to learning that. So we can't expect them to be adults. I know that sounds rudimentary, but when I analyze myself, I'm like, my goodness, I do that. I do that with my kids. I can't expect them to be able to self-regulate like I do. Heck, it's hard enough for me to do it. How can I expect them to? So what we're going to go over tonight in some nitty-gritty detail. So if you get lost or have a question, raise your hand if you're comfortable doing that. And if not, approach Beth and I afterwards and we'll talk as well. But there are systems that exist in the world on our phones, things that are free, things you can buy, that can help encourage kids to grow in their own self-regulation. So that's sort of the heart of where we're going. Okay. So as the flyer said about tonight's event, we're talking about layers of protection, both at school and at home. I do want you to have an understanding of how seriously we take this with our students. We take it very seriously. But also keep in mind too, these systems, web filter, student safety, classroom management, all of them, none of them are perfect. None of them. They block things by categories. They make best effort to block things, to steer kids in the right direction. None are perfect. So sometimes I get questions from parents or from teachers or from students. They're like, why didn't this get blocked? Or, why are you blocking this, Mr. Luthman? This is crazy. We should be able to get to this. And I'm like, again, the filter isn't perfect. Nothing is. Let's work together and work through it. And we do. But what we are called to do is we're called to try. And we're called to try real hard with this stuff. So we iterate, we make it better, and I'm always keeping my sights out on what's even better for our students here when it comes to these products as well. So are we married to any one of these things? Absolutely not. And we may change, and that's normal, because we're always going to choose to make things better and continue to push and try to do the best for our students. So our web filter, the name of the web filter is called Securely. It blocks things based on categories. And it keeps track of what students do online, where to go, what they search for, what they're watching, and how long they're doing that. Student safety is called Securely Aware. I'll describe for you soon what that exactly does for our student safety overall. And then, if you can imagine, if you're not a classroom teacher, imagine how frustrating it would be if you had a group of 25 kids in front of you that you want to pay attention, but all of them have screens open like this, and they're just doing whatever they want to do. That would be pandemonium. That'd be madness. And so with these devices, affords a wonderful opportunity for learning, but also with these devices, we need oversight and control so we don't lose control of the classroom. So that's what a classroom management tool does. Further, we use a product called, from Google, it's called the Google Admin Console that allows us to restrict all extensions and additional programs that students could put on there. So it's not the wild, wild west. They can't look up and add anything they want. Those are all approved items by me and my staff. So what you're seeing up here, and I brought a pointer with me with like a cool laser, and then when I got up here, I'm like, I don't see how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to try to use the cursor up here. Hopefully you can see it. I know it's like white on white. It's not ideal. But in the upper right-hand corner, you get a picture of what the Securely Web Filter looks like. It's a series of toggle switches. We are not going to allow gambling or other adult content or social media. Those things are just blocked. And that's by the product categorizing sites to those specific categories. That's how the block happens. And you see on the left here, I did a search for, as I was preparing our talk tonight, I was like, all right, well, let me just pull up my account into the activities, and I'll press enter, and it'll give me a list of every site that I went to, everything I typed into Google for a search, all of that's tracked inside of the web filter. So that's what we do for filtering. That's also both on-site here at school and at home using a district device. When you use a district device, it's filtered everywhere just like you are here at school. So, moving on to the second layer of protection, Securely Aware. It used to be called Securely 24. This is our student safety component, and it's something that we subscribe to on an annual basis, which flags web searches, emails back and forth, websites that students go to, that could be of a concern, like self-harm, grief, bullying, violence, guns. Those items, just to give you an idea, a lot of these products, Securely is one, GoGuardian, Lightspeed, There are lots of them that are used in schools. The base level is to filter and then notify. For example, the guidance department, so like the middle school, would get all of these alerts when kids are potentially searching for stuff that reflects bullying or self-harm. And then it was on the counselors to determine what's important and what isn't to follow up on. A huge burden, right? So what Securely Aware does is the web filter takes those flagged elements and it translates it to Securely Aware, where a group of human beings actually look at that flagged content and say, okay, is there a pattern here or not? Okay, there is a pattern. Is this specific? Is this urgent? And based on their analysis, former criminologists, former psychologists that are on this team, they will make the call whether to reach out to the principal the next day, or the parent directly, or Wadsworth Police. So there are different thresholds. This exists now and is in force to protect our students. And I feel so good that we have a layer of protection that actually looks out for our students to help us intervene early and help them if a student is struggling. So that's Securely Aware. And I put on here an example right there. This is all just too much. So I put it on there because it's the perfect example of something that would get flagged and examined by a human being, but a computer would look at all those words. Those are all generic words. They're not offensive. They're not threatening. But put it all together and let a human being look at it, and they're like, okay, that could be a problem. Let me look at that a little further. So it's a product that I'm really glad that we've had. We've had it for several years, and I'm really happy that we have it in place. Last is, I was talking about classroom management. That's Go Guardian. What you're seeing up here is an example of what teachers see. They see a grid of what all of the student screens look like when teachers are using their Chromebooks. So when the teacher says it's a kid beyond Chromebooks, this is what it looks like. Teachers can actually see what kids have open, and then with one click say, you're going to close that, you're going to close that. Or teachers can say, you can only go to these 4 sites. Let's stay on task together. So it gives teachers the power to control the room and steer the learning so that kids don't get off track. They also have reports at their disposal too. You may see this come up in parent-teacher conferences. Teachers might send these home. So on every single student, Go Guardian will track what their top sites are, how much time they're spending on it, documents they're opening, their top searches in Google. So another way teachers can actually sit down with the student and say, look, you're supposed to be writing a research paper, and here you are on a random site. Like, what's going on here? So this is another tool at our disposal to try to help keep our kids safe in school. Okay. Now, more so probably what you're here for is how to actually protect things at home, to protect our children. So, there are many products, both physical and electronic, both paid and free, that can aid greatly in establishing appropriate, healthy guardrails for your children's technology. And before I dive into it, I've got slides that have screenshots of like what I use with my own kids. I just want to make sure that it's said before we go there, that all of these settings, it's not like, this is the only way to do it. Because many of us will have different opinions on, well, I wouldn't want to leave it that open. I would make it more restrictive. Or, I wouldn't make it that restrictive. I would leave it a lot more open. And that's great. We all have different opinions, and that's fine. The key is that we try. The key is that we try based on our values, based on our kids, and what we believe to be right. We make an attempt to try to steer them to grow in their own emotional self-regulation. So, several layers of your home that are important to think through. You can think of it like a bullseye. Network level protection. It sounds like a very techie term as I'm reading it. So, sorry, that's what I eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. What does that mean? That means all of your devices that are connected with Wi-Fi. That encompasses your network, right? So network level protection it's It's a piece of software or a physical tool that stands between you and the rest of the internet. And it does very powerful things to all the devices in your house simultaneously. So that's network level protection. One of the tools that I'll show you a screenshot of is called OpenDNS. It's free. What does that do? It's actually really cool. And I have links in here to actually show you how to set it up. But it allows you to, I think Cisco bought them, but thankfully it's still free. Usually when they buy things, it becomes very expensive. But this one's still free, which is great. It allows you to choose categories of things that you want to block in your house. So, and it's just a big grid of checkboxes. And you can say, I don't want shopping, and I don't want gambling, and I don't want pornography, or whatever it is. You can make it your own, and then every device in your house is subject to that. So that's OpenDNS Home. Another option is you could get what's called a Eero. That is a Wi-Fi router. And so with either CityLink or with Spectrum, there are two ways of doing this. And again, I'll try to be deliberately nitty-gritty because some things in my head I just think, well, everyone knows, but probably not. CityLink or Spectrum, they may give you one box, and that's your internet and Wi-Fi. Okay. However, the bummer is that one box, if Spectrum or CityLink is providing you Wi-Fi, that means they're charging you every week for Wi-Fi. And that Wi-Fi is usually abysmal, and it doesn't perform very well at all. You might notice dropouts, speed problems, you name it. You're much better off to actually take that box that they give you, run one cable out of it, and into your own wireless router. And the one that I like is called Eero. And then that's your home Wi-Fi. Once you have that, you have a great deal of control over what happens, again, at the network level at the top. Another one is Circle. Circle is very, very well known. It's been around longer than Eero. I put it on here, but I put $2 signs behind it. It's very expensive, but it is also another option. It's very user-friendly as well. But Eero and Circle both come with annual subscriptions, and Circle is a lot. So, but it's another good option. So after you talk about network level control, it seems like we're going to be on this slide forever. I promise we won't. You have device level control. And this is really where the meat and potatoes is. Screen time, Apple Screen Time, or Google Family Link. Both of them are free, and you can use either one. So those are key to setting the limits on students' phones, on your children's phones. But then also app level control. YouTube, TikTok, and then the magic of two-factor authentication when you use it the right way, which we'll get to. So there's settings inside of the apps themselves that can restrict things and make it more safe. And then there's also physical protection, which is also something that we don't want to negate as well. Security cameras can be really good. Don't be tricked into buying a ring. It's a ripoff, and it costs, you don't get anything for your money. It's so overly priced. So we'll talk about something that's really cheap and really good, and something that I've used for years. So let's start at the top. And we're gonna get, I promise this is the most technical slide of the whole night, okay? But you're gonna leave tonight, and you're gonna know what this means, and no one else in your family or friend circle will know what this means. Literally, you go to a dinner party and say, anyone know what DNS is? And they're gonna be like, what? You're like, with computers, what's DNS? Well, I don't know. Why would I know that? And you're like, well, I know that. And I know how the internet works. So here it is. Domain name system. That's what it stands for, domain name system. So what does that mean? Well, let's say if we didn't have domain name servers or a domain name system, if you wanted to place an order for Chick-fil-A, right? If we didn't have domain name systems, you would have to remember the IP address, which is like your house address, but it's a longer set of numbers that identifies a server out in the world. You would have to remember 3.234.98.20. You'd have to put that into your web browser to order Chick-fil-A. And that doesn't make any sense. And humans can't remember numbers like that. Why would we remember stuff like that? That's silly. So instead, we created words that translate to numbers. That's actually the whole internet right there. In my office, we have domain name system servers. Those pass traffic up the chain to our internet provider, that pass traffic up the chain to Akron, to Cleveland, to Chicago, to Washington, or overseas, and it's all a series of daisy-chained DNS servers. And that's actually how OpenDNS works. It's a DNS server that you point your home router at. So we're getting it. So DNS is understanding it is incredibly important, and that's the most technical we're going to be all about. So now you know something that none of your friends know. Okay, here we go. So DNS, OpenDNS Home, there's a link for it there. You can create a free account, and then you need to know what your public IP address is. Like I said earlier, your street address. We all know what that is. Well, your CityLink or Spectrum internet device in your house, it has a public IP address. And so you need to know that to set up an OpenDNS account. Well, how do you figure it out? Well, you go to whatismyipaddress.com, and it will tell you. That typically doesn't change. It could change, but it typically doesn't. And so once you have your public IP address, your public identifier for your house, then you can go create your free account, following the tutorial that's found here, and the setup that's inside of your router. Your router has settings. It's basically a text box that says, what's my DNS server? And a common DNS server is like 8.8.8.8 or something. That's a Google DNS server. So OpenDNS will have two very specific things, and if you put those specific things into your router, and you've got an OpenDNS account, that's where the meet point is, and then you'll have filtering for every device in your house. It's not the easiest thing to set up, but it is free, and it's one that I've used personally, and it's been great. So that's one option. Okay, now we're going to get to really fun stuff, because, like I said, this is stuff I like to talk about for fun. So another option, we're going to talk about what a router is, and I talk about where that fits in, right? It's a Wi-Fi router, and then a subscription called Eero Plus. Now, depending on how large or small your house is, maybe you need one, maybe you need three. I have three, not because I have a large house, but I have about 100 wireless devices in my house. Of course I do. So, actually, as a total sidebar, it's like a party trick in my house. We had family over right after Christmas, and none of our Christmas stuff was up. Like, raise your hand for Christmas if you set up like Christmas villages. Who sets up Christmas villages? Yeah, okay. I'm not completely on an island. So, you know what I'm talking about. Like, Hallmark, Department 56, a little light that goes in. It's really cool. Okay, we got lots of them. And a couple of Christmas trees, and I have these little smart plugs, and I have them all connected. And I put it all behind one button. And so I told my family, all right, we're gonna turn on Christmas with just one button. Are you ready? And I press it, and then you hear clicks all over the whole house. And then Christmas comes to life. It's really fun. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So I have three of them because I have so many stinking devices, it's crazy. So you probably don't need three, you probably need one. But if you wanted to start with three, it's $179. It's a cute little thing. It's not big. It can be hidden anywhere. And you download an app on your smartphone, and then it will tell you if you've set it up right, which is actually really clever. So you first set up the first one, and it says, okay, walk to another part of your house and plug it into power, and we'll tell you if you've done a good job or not. And it has a cute little dog in it. It's like, you're doing a great job. It's very encouraging. It was quite delightful to set up. I'm like, this is very low tech. I like this. This is so friendly. And I put one in like near the kitchen, and it's like, it's too close to the first one. Space it out some. And I'm like, okay, I will. So I put one in our front office, one in the basement, and one on our family room. And that was great. And like I said, that was $179. So once you get that, One, you won't have Wi-Fi problems ever again because it creates what's called a wireless mesh, so your devices can move throughout your house, and the devices actually figure out who gets what, and it connects it all automatically. It's very fun. But then with that, you get something called Euro Plus. That is $99 a year. I've actually never paid that. When I bought the Euro, they're like, would you like to try Euro Plus? You can have it for $49 a year. And I'm like, great. And then when the renewal period came up, and I got an email saying, we're gonna renew your Euro Plus. It's gonna be $99. And I called them and I'm like, I actually don't wanna pay $99. I'd like to pay $49 like I did the first time. And they said, okay. So my grandfather always told me, he's like, the answer is no unless you ask. And so I figured, why not? So I get to tell all of you. They will say yes if you ask. You call and say, no, I don't pay $99. I'd like to pay $49. And they'll be like, okay. So, kind of fun. No, right? All right, so what does Zero Plus get you? This is where I get to geek out a lot. So I'm gonna blaze through all of this stuff, but I'll touch on a few things, and then I'll show you actually what the app looks like, and what sort of data it gets you, and how very easy it is to turn on stuff. So, it gives you customized filtering for groups of devices. That's a lot of fancy terms for a group of devices. So you have, take for example my son, he has a group, and his Chromebook from school is in that group, and his cell phone is in that group, and I have settings just for him. And then my daughter has a separate group or profile, and her devices are in hers, and I get to control hers differently. With that, once you have a profile or content filtering group, you can set what's called scheduled downtimes, where their devices are no longer on the internet, and it just happens automatically. If probably many families are not this way, we are definitely not. If you have dinner at a very specific time, you could set it so that there's a scheduled downtime over dinner where nobody's phone does anything, or an iPad doesn't do anything, or their Chromebook from school doesn't do anything. But then also you can schedule a downtime for bed. And so after a specific time, even the Chromebook from school, if they're taking it home, if they're grades 5 through 12, you could do a scheduled downtime that says that Chromebook is offline, starting at 9 p.m. And come back online at 6. And that's it. And then also when you pull up, and you'll see it here, when you pull up a page in the app, there's a little pause button in the upper right-hand corner. You press it once, and that device is offline. Just like that. Super easy. And I just 8.3. Without even, it's like I wrote this. Another one is block apps per filtering groups. So I don't want my kids on TikTok at all. And so I just go into their profile and I say TikTok, and it's just off. They're not going to use that. On the web or the app, I don't want them on that. And then I can just, and it's everything you can imagine that Beth was talking about, everything is listed in there. And it even has like the icons that you're used to seeing. Like, oh, that's the Snapchat icon with the weird ghost and the yellow background, right? You just tap on it and say, that one doesn't work. And then it won't work. You can enforce Google and YouTube safe search. This is a big one. Enforcing safe search on a device is good. And for my daughter, when she was younger, I turned on YouTube safe search. She's not going to know. We have a question. Yes?
Beal, what if my student disconnects from my Wi-Fi?
Yes, and so once we get to device level control, that's where we're going to solve that one.
Okay, thank you.
But with network level control, which is where we're still at, you can enforce YouTube safe search and Google safe search so that you have a cleaner, safer sandbox for them to search the internet and to search on YouTube. So that's fun. You can also block content. It's just a slide bar. It's just like a toggle button like you're used to seeing on your cell phone. Do you want to block adult, illegal, criminal? You just turn those on and then that stuff doesn't show up. But then the other neat thing that the Eero Plus does is it blocks malicious sites from loading, phishing sites from loading, botnets, all these scary things on the internet that can find their way into an ad. Oh, that's right, ads don't. You can block all ads too, at the network level. It's one of the greatest things ever. Another story. My dad was visiting, he lives in California, and my dad and stepmom were visiting us right after Christmas. And their internet in their house out in California is similar to ours. Nothing crazy fast, but nothing slow either. And he's using his laptop in my house, and he was like, wow, the internet is so fast here. And I'm like, have you seen any ads since you've been here? No, I don't think I have. And I'm like, well, it's because I've got this Euro Plus thing. And he's like, Euro what? And so I started telling him about it, and it's true. Ads don't show up in any apps, any web pages. They just are completely removed from existence when you're behind an Euro Plus subscription. It's quite wonderful. In fact, let me see. I'm just curious. Didn't write it down. Last week in my house, there were 29,495 ads that were blocked from our devices in this little dashboard. And 612,000 scans for looking for malicious things, and 105 malware or botnet attacks that were blocked. Just without any of us knowing anything. It's just protecting my family, and I feel really good about that. So, what else does this give you? It also will, if objectionable content was blocked, for example, let's say if I blocked adult, violent, criminal, gambling, all of those things, and something is blocked, my son won't be notified about anything, but I'll see it in the dashboard that says, oh, there was objectionable content blocked. What profile was that for? Oh, it was for my son. Okay, well, I'll have a conversation with him. Like, well, what were you really doing? Let's talk about this. So it doesn't give you all of the details of what they did, but it shows where there was a hit against that profile setting. Also, Aero Plus, what does it give you? It gives you a family subscription to Malwarebytes. So if you have a PC at home, you probably should have antivirus software. Malwarebytes is a very, very good product for protecting your computer from adware, malware, viruses. And you get an annual subscription for free with this product. And then you also get a family subscription to 1Password, which is a password manager tool, which we'll talk about. There's a slide for that too. I have to talk faster.
I have a question.
Go for it.
So, do you get notified every single time there is content that?
Nope.
Okay.
And in fact, that would be awful.
Yeah, because I had heard of Bark before,
Yeah.
and I had friends that did it, and they went absolutely bonkers because their kids listen to country music, and every song has alcohol in it, and they were getting 500 emails, an hour about the songs their kids were listening to.
Yep.
And I wondered about that.
So the problem with that, honestly, is products that do that, they're trying. They're really trying to do good. The problem is if it's so much notifications like that, it just becomes noise. And then your brain is just trained to ignore it. And that's not what you want. You don't want to train your brain to ignore what the thing is trying to do to protect. So no, it does not do this.
Okay.
I usually, because I'm usually moving so fast during the week, usually on the weekend I open up the app and I'll be like, I wonder what Euro Plus did this week. Oh, 150,000 ads when my family was visiting. Their computers had a lot of ads on them that I blocked. It was kind of wild. The last thing that Euro Plus gives you for free is a family account for encrypt.me. It's a VPN account. If you've heard in the news, don't go to a coffee shop or a hotel and get on their Wi-Fi. Incredibly dangerous. Hackers can get into your computers. Oh, that's very true. That's so true. Don't use a public hotspot anywhere. But if you do, it's good to turn on a VPN to actually tunnel your way out of that public space to a more private one and browse the web. That is by far safer. So those are all the things that it gets you. Now let's look at actually what my house looks like. So I'll try to use my pointer. Again, it's not the greatest, but stick with me here. So the first screen here, this shows our internet connection, the different areas that are in our house, different profiles, the two for my kids and myself. And then it gives you all of the connected devices that are online right now. So there's an app. And then this next one right here, where my cursor is. This is what I wanted you to see of how, like, what is the learning curve for turning this stuff on, or configuring it, or setting it up? Yeah, it's a toggle switch. It's just you slide it over and it's green and it's set up. You want advanced security to protect yourself against viruses and botnets? Turn it on. Do you want to block ads for the whole network? Slide it on, and you're done. So, when creating content filters, like those groups that we were talking about, it already has preset settings to get you started. So it can say, do you have a preteen? Do you have K through 4? A high schooler? And it will just preload a profile for you. And then you can go in and tweak it after that. And then here's my activity. This I took a couple of days ago. So you can see my total download speed, total upload speed, how much data have we downloaded, threat blocks, content filters, ad blocks, and scans. And then remember when we were talking about those scheduled downtimes? That's what this looks like on the far right. You create a schedule for one of your device groups, and you just say, when's the start time, when's the end time, and what days of the week are those valid on? And I have it just Sunday through Thursday, and it doesn't need to be effective Friday night or Saturday night. So it chooses to be a little bit more flexible on those nights, especially when my son is hanging out with friends, so I don't want the internet to stop working on his devices at that time. So, couple more with this, and then we're going to get to device level stuff. So, more screens of what this looks like. Over here on the left is my son's profile, and it shows the devices that are associated with him. If I want to pause all of his devices at once, I click pause in the upper right, and then they're all off. And just also so you know too, if you don't have any protection in place, I'm 100% behind the whole don't keep the phone or Chromebook in the bedroom. Absolutely. My kids keep their Chromebooks and their iPhones in their bedrooms because they can. And they use their phones as an alarm. And because they have smart bulbs in their lamps. And my daughter likes to change her room to look purple or blue, like she's underwater, which is really cute. And she's like, well, I need to be able to turn my light off. I can't put my phone down here on the microwave. And I'm like, I agree. And so I set up these protections in place so that you'll see in a minute, where there's very little she actually can do once her bedtime shows up. So I'm not worried. And my kids' phones are silent when they sleep. So the notification stuff, that war is easy to win with just one setting on a device. Other things in here, again, when I was saying, look how easy it is to turn on for your whole system, for a content filter, for do you want safe search on for your children? It's just a toggle switch. YouTube restricted, another toggle switch. Do I want to block illegal, violent adult? Toggle switches. And then on the far right, check this out. Remember how I was saying it even has the app icons? So it's got all of the common ones that you would even think about. And if you want to block them, all you do is check them and that's it. Pretty cool. Questions about that super fun stuff? Yeah.
So if you block it through this, do you still have to block it on their phone and stuff like that?
Yes, but it also depends on your child, how old they are, and where they are. So here's what I mean by that. My daughter, she had a cell phone when she finished 3rd grade? 4th grade? Yeah, 4th grade. She was arguing for 3rd, but I'm not. No. So 4th grade, we got her this super old phone. It's one that we had that was like 7 years old, but she was thrilled. And I put all kinds of protections on there. I even took off like web browsing. It had no web browser. And is she going to know that it has a cellular connection and if you turn off Wi-Fi you can get to things? No. But a child that's older, yeah, you would have to do that in device control too, which is where we're going next. Good question. Yes, another one.
Sometimes I will have students let me know that the way they get around certain things is they have their own bootleg VPN and something. And so is that still possible with this system?
Yes, and so this is what, again, we talk about a multi-layered approach. And Kids love to think that, and again, it's amazing, one of the most valuable assets in the world that kids have seemingly an unending amount of is time. So, it's so funny, they're like, I'm so busy, I have no time for stuff. And I'm like, what did you do on Saturday? I played The Legend of Zelda for 8 hours. And I'm like, I see, okay, but you're busy, okay. Yes, they spend exorbitant amounts of time trying to figure out workarounds for things. And the thing that is so powerful about device level control is that it doesn't matter what they're connected to. Are they on Wi-Fi? Are they on cell? Are they connected to a VPN that surfaces in Japan? Who cares? The app level control rules all. So, any other questions about all this super fun, nerdy stuff? Yes?
I just have a silly question. How hard is it to add devices in one? And can you add gaming systems, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything that connects.
How hard is it to add it? Like you have to go in the device and find a special code?
Nope.
Or is it just Wi-Fi?
Put in your Wi-Fi code and it's it.
Okay.
And then once you see it in this list, over here on the left, you see all of your devices. You can click on one device. You see where I have that here, like here. Looking at my son's iPhone XR right here. You'll see the details when it's online, and then you can click profile. What profile do you want to add it to? I'd add it for my son's profile, and then that's it. But yeah, our Apple TVs, are they in this? Yep. Nintendo Switches, yep. Anything and everything that's on the wired network or Wi-Fi will be present in here and you can control it. It's super cool. I don't want to make this the only thing we talk about. Okay, so device level control. Last night, in the upper right, check this out. So, and also keep in mind too, Google Family Link can be used to control if your kids have Google devices, and it works beautifully. And if your kids have an Android phone and you have an Apple phone, you can still download the Google Family Link app on iOS and control their Android phone. That works fine. It doesn't honestly work the other way, but it works that way. What I'm covering is what I personally use and can vouch for. That matches what 75% of Americans have, which is an Apple device. Globally, Android is far more popular, but in the US, 75% that's Apple, and that's what I have, so that's what this tutorial is, but by no means is this the only way. So Google Family Link is also free, and I include links for setting that stuff up too. And it's actually my clerk in our department, she uses Google Family Link, and it's wonderful. So, okay, in the upper right, you see this, it says time sensitive. My son requested more screen time on Snapchat. This is what this looks like. You set up time limits for categories of apps or apps themselves. And I can say, I want my son to be on Snapchat for 1 hour each day. If he wants more time, and what happens is, when he's done with his time, it says, time is up. And it's this white screen with this hourglass, and it says, would you like to request more time? And he can. My wife and I will get pop-ups on our phone and our watches that look exactly like that say, my son has requested more time for Snapchat. And I can then go to him and say, have you done your homework yet? Is it done yet? And then he's like, no. And I can say, fine. Well, then I'm going to not approve this, and please do that first. Thanks. Otherwise, I'll say, yeah, you can have 15 more minutes, but get back to work. Or I can say, it's the weekend. I approve all day. And then kids get super happy. But this is what it looks like. And it's just a quick pop-up, you respond to it, and it's done. And it's immediate, it's so fast. My kids get home from school, I'm still here. My daughter wants to play an Animal Crossing game, and she doesn't have very much time on games during the school day, and she's like, I'm done. She sends me a message, I'm done with my homework, can I play on Pocket Camp? I'm like, go ahead and request it. And then I approve for an hour as they have fun. So this allows you to set limits, prevent access code, device access code, or account changes. Very important. Set a passcode on your child's phone and then turn this on. They cannot change that passcode once you've done it. Children can always request more time. You approve from a watch or phone. You can monitor what websites they actually go to, how much time they spend on each of those websites. You can set a downtime inside of this, and you can customize it to say you can still use your weather app. My daughter wants the app to control her light bulb and messages. Those are always allowed. Otherwise, everything's off. And it's true, everything's just grayed out until she wakes up the next morning. Very important, and again, this changes over time. You can control who can contact your child via phone or text with what's called Apple Screen Time. You can set it so that only people in their contacts can call them. Only people in their contacts can text message them. Otherwise, the call never rings, the text message comes through, it doesn't beep, and it's grayed out, and it's got an hourglass over it saying, not allowed. So that's what it looks like when someone is not approved. There's a setting that intercepts and prevents sexually explicit photos from being sent outbound. So it'll stop that if it detects that that is actually being sent out, which is pretty powerful. You can set age-appropriate limits on music, books, videos, etc., like you would expect. And you can also prevent them from using their phone as a hotspot. So here's Apple Screen Time continued. Where does it start? It starts by setting up family sharing setup. If you go into settings, there's an option to set up a family. Again, I have right up here. And the link for this whole presentation you're about to get to it once we get to the end is this is a detailed description from Apple on how to set it up step by step with all the screenshots you could ever need. But that's what it looks like on the right. That's my family. My daughter, my son, my wife, Melissa, and I. And if your kids are under 13, no problem. You can create accounts for them through this method from Apple. It's very restricted, but if they're 7 years old, 5 years old, doesn't matter. You can still create an account for them and manage their device this way. So, I recommend if you're setting this up for the first time, there's sometimes a glitch where the family that came over to our house and I'm setting their stuff up over pizza, they were adding their high schooler who's over 13, and when you add them to a family over 13, it starts off that they're an adult, and then you can't restrict or control a lot of things, and I'm like, that's not what I want. So the hack for that is to alter their age when creating the account so that they're under 13. Once the account's created, adjust the birthday. I don't know, maybe that's been fixed, but that was the weirdo glitch that I encountered. And I said too, keep in time that these things should change. As kids mature, as their unmaturity changes, contemporary circumstances. One example, my daughter, and again, it's my kids understand this system that they're in with me and their devices. And they know that I'm not just gonna snatch their device away. The answer is take it away. No, that's a way to set up an oppositional relationship. You don't want that. You want to control it and help them learn and get better with it. And so because they know we're in this system, my daughter, who was in 6th grade, she's very different from my son. She was like, I have this science test coming up. I'm really worried. I've got to study for it, and I can't stop looking at YouTube. I need you to set all my limits down to 1 minute. I don't want tempted by YouTube. And I'm like, you got it, sweetie? Down to 1. And if you're satisfied with what you're studying tonight, you can have more time. She's like, okay. And so sometimes it's a temporary circumstance. My son has done that too. And it's these ebb and flows and things that you'll see. My son would be like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. Like more time with games. And I'm like, cool. And I give him more time with games. And I increase his limit to like 2 hours a day. And then I check in with him, I don't know, the next month. And I say, how's it going? And he's like, yeah, the limit's too high. I need you to move that down, please. I can't stop playing my games. I'm like, it's totally cool. Like, we'll lower it, and if you need one more time, I'll give it to you. And so it's helping them understand, and I've talked to other kids in my extended family, talking to my niece, and I'm just like, how much time do you spend on YouTube? And she said, too much. And just it wasn't even in high school at the time. And I said, I can set up a system with your dad so that it restricts you to just like an hour, and then you can't actually look at anymore. Would you like that? And she's like, oh my gosh, yes, that'd be great. And again, it's not like we're talking about the most angelic students in the world. It's just that they can't self-regulate like an adult, and that's okay. I'm like, that's cool. Well, we'll help you. So there's a walkthrough there about setting up more of these settings that I'm showing you here. So let's start on the left. On an Apple device, when you go to settings, you scroll down to what's called screen time down here. Once you open that, it shows you your own screen time. Incidentally, I turned this on just to see how much I'm using, and it was really funny. The first week of January, I had the flu, was super sick, and took a few days off work. I couldn't talk. It was crazy. And then at the end of the week, I got my screen time report. It says, your screen time is up 400%. And I'm like, I bet it is, actually. So I've been laying here feeling miserable. So, so when you scroll down further right here, you see your family members, the children that are in your family. And for this, I would click on my daughter, which takes us to this screen. And you have downtime, app limits. Downtime is what you think, bedtime. And I'll show you what that looks like. App limits, communication limits, that's where you say, you can edit your contacts, but so can I. Or you can't touch your contacts, that's all me. And you can actually add to their contacts from right here. Like you can actually, it links to their contacts, and then you can create your own, or say, add grandma and grandpa from my contacts into theirs, and then grandma and grandpa can call them. Communication safety is the objectionable, like images from either coming in or out. The apps that are always allowed is what it means. The phone and other things are just always allowed. You want to keep that list low. And then content privacy restrictions, that's setting, they can watch TV 17, TV 14. They're not allowed to add accounts. That's a big one, actually. You don't want them to be able to add any other email account to their phone. You want to actually lock out all changes with accounts. That's very important. And so we'll see what that setting looks like in a minute. And then when I click on right here, on this third tile where it says see all activity, this is my daughter's activity. And so here it shows 2 hours, 43 minutes, and what did she spend it on, right? And it's got the limits that I have set. Facebook is not actually the social media Facebook, it's Facebook Messenger, where it's cute. It's through my Facebook account, and then Facebook like Kids, where you have to approve through another parent, their kid, and then they can talk to each other. That's cool. So that's what that is. But then as you scroll down to see what she's done over the last week, YouTube for 4 hours that week. She listened to a lot of music. She went to virtualnerd.com. That's actually like a studying site that they use in their middle school. And so you can actually see the time per website. And you can set up limits per website as well. And then on down it goes. This other tile shows you down to even the seconds. Like, where did that time go and what? And so when setting this up for your own kids, what I recommend is turn all this on and maybe not set any limits. And then just let it track. And then look at a weekend whole and be like, where is all their time going? And then you can start to craft limits based on that. It even tracks notifications on the far right over here. How many times different things notify her. How many times like she picks things up, like her right here in the third one where the cursor is. First used after pickup, like when it's been sitting idle, what does she click on first? She listens to music when she wakes up in the morning. So, more on this. This is what the downtime screen looks like. And what's wonderful about the downtime screen, you can customize it by the day. So, school day, sure. It turns off at 9:30, and well, she wakes up really early. We're early risers in the Luthman house, so her phone becomes available to her at 5:20. But it stays on longer Friday and Saturday. And this setting down here at the bottom is very important. what happens when an app limit is reached? You want it to block. You don't want it to notify them. We want to create a guardrail for them, so we want to block it. App limits, these are the app limits that my daughter has. So games, she wants deliberately set low. YouTube, she wants deliberately set low as well. Where did I go? I had two, yeah, there it is. Music's really high, she loves music. Communication limits, this third screen here. I recently, again, evidence of how things should change over time. I recently allowed her to add contacts on her own. So that's new for her. And so she's got 26 contacts. But also think about it too. I was talking to my wife about this, that our son, he just started in high school. So we're new high school parents. We're diving in like super deep. We're band parents, we're all those things. And it's really cool. But I'm like, if there was a problem and I needed to call my son's friends, how do I do it? Through here. I have access to all of his contacts. I know who he hangs out with. If I needed to actually call a friend of his, I could do it because I've got the number, because I manage his contacts. And that, I feel like I'm not going to always have these protections in place. As he gets older, I'm going to start peeling some of these back because I want him to grow in his own regulation and have more autonomy as he steps into adulthood, which makes sense. Last little bit of settings. The always allowed. I allow maps, the weather. My daughter wants to check the weather before she goes to school. This is probably the second one here. If nothing else sinks in, this is the screen you want to pay attention to. Under here at the bottom, allow changes to and don't. Passcode, account, cellular data, none of those things. They should be modified. You want to be able to access their phone anytime, and you want to know what the passcode is. You don't want to allow them to change it. So, the last little bit is very explanatory of apps that are always allowed.
Can I ask a question about that passcode change? So
Yes.
I let my son do it, but I also have Face ID recognition.
Yes.
So he knows what the password is, but I can still get it. Is there a problem with that?
So you still know the passcode?
Nope, don't know the passcode, but I can get into it because we put my face on his phone as well, like you can have two.
That'll be a problem. If he ever turns off his phone, you'll need the code. The moment it boots up, you need the actual passcode. So you want the passcode. Good question. All right, I got another question.
Just really quick, where will I be able to find the video? Because if I have to leave and I want to see the rest of the presentation, is there?
Yes, so the high school stood up a YouTube channel that we've been putting multiple times a week announcements. And this entire presentation is going to be there, so you won't miss anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, and in fact, before you have to walk out, say, hey, I'm leaving, and then I'll put up on the screen what you need to write down. You can have this presentation. So,
Hey, I'm leaving.
all right, there you go. We'll go to the very end. Write that down. bit.ly/Luthman-tech safety. Or that's a QR code. It'll take you right there. So, all right, let's zip all the way back to where we were. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to it. All right, I will wait for you guys. And I will take a drink of water. No, so the question is, do I share an iTunes account? The answer is absolutely not. So I have an iTunes account or an Apple ID. My wife has a separate one. My son has a separate one. My daughter has a separate one. Do not repeat putting your Apple ID on the child device. Don't do that at all. And in fact, family sharing won't work if you do it that way. And then people can get duplicate messages, and it's a whole bag of hurt. It's terrible. So, okay. Device level control, super powerful. Even on the far right here, check this out. It even gives you a family checklist of like, hey, you modified your daughter's communication limits. And you might want to consider setting up these different changes. So it even will guide you through doing stuff. Okay. App level control. We're gonna pick up the pace, but yell if you have a question. YouTube, does it absolutely have its own control? Yes. Can you turn on YouTube restricted mode inside of the app? Yes. I recommend that you create a Google account for your kids, and then even if it's underage, I'm officially saying to not put in the wrong birthday, but do that, and create a personal account for them. And what I do in my house that works actually pretty well is I have an account for my daughter, an account for my son in YouTube. And I put the YouTube app on their phones. And I say, go for it, and turn on YouTube restricted. And then on our Apple TV, or it could be anything else, Fire Stick, they all have the YouTube app on there. I have all of our accounts signed in on YouTube there as well. And so if you want to see what your kids are looking at, after they've gone to bed, you can click on their YouTube account, go to the history, and be like, that's some pretty weird videos. And you talk to them more, something like that. So that's one thing that I do with YouTube. There's a link in here for the TikTok family settings. I'm very anti-TikTok, but the downside is you actually have to create an account to do the family sharing. If you want to do that, there are some family sharing links where you can link your child's account to your account and then set up restrictions that way. Also Netflix, Amazon Prime, they all have parental controls. So if you have a smart TV or a set-top box that runs Netflix, and when they try to actually watch a show that's rated R or TVMA, they have to enter the passcode, 4-digit passcode, to actually watch the content. And so that's another way to control that device for them. So, well, my daughter's been downstairs a long time. I wonder what she's been watching. But I know she's not watching anything objectionable because I've got all of those settings in the app itself set. So if she tries to watch something inappropriate, she can't. So, okay. This is a little bit of a hack. Two-factor authentication is where you use something that you know, a password, and something that you have, a phone with a text message. So that's two-factor. If kids are like, well, I have 2 accounts, or I'm going to sign into my Instagram account on my friend's phone so that my parents won't know. Well, you can set up two-factor authentication on their Instagram account and make your phone the two-factor. So that when they try to sign in on someone else's device, they won't be able to. Love doing that. Physical protection. This is the company you need to go out and buy like everything they have. I swear, they don't pay me, but they really should. It's called Wyze, W-Y-Z-E. That's my front door, by the way. That camera was $19, and there is no monthly fee. And it streams to my app. And it notifies me when there's motion. Yeah. They sell an outdoor camera that has a spotlight, and I think it's $29. Ring sells one for $230. So you do the math there. Ring's a ripoff. Don't buy those. The Ring video doorbell, it's like flush of money down a toilet. Wyze sells one that is actually vertical, because people are vertical. It's $29. I'm just like, you can go Home Depot, Costco, the Wyze website, you can buy all those. They have light bulbs that turn purple or blue. Those are like $6. Those are on Wi-Fi. They're super fun. But why am I bringing this up tonight? My kids, my son had some friends over for high school, his first high school party, like 17 kids downstairs. High school kids eat a lot of food, right? It's crazy. I thought, it's only 17 kids, 8 pizzas ought to do. Yeah, I should order a pizza for every kid. Anyway, afterwards, they were like, let's go play hide and seek outside. And I'm like, okay. But then I wasn't really worried because I had cameras all outside. So we were just watching them run around the house, and that was pretty fun. So that's super cheap, a way to protect your home, but also know who's coming and going in your house. Another layer of protection. This is another trick. Again, if you got the Euro Plus, you'd have a subscription to 1Password. And 1Password is, it gives you a family account. What I have, I write it here. My wife and my kids and I all have our own 1Password account. My kids, I've taught them to save passwords in 1Password. Their passwords are saved to a vault that my wife and I have access to, so we have access to all their passwords. And they're learning good digital management skills because, well, in my job and line of work, I have over 2,000 passwords now. So you can imagine, I lose my mind if I write those down somewhere. So using a password manager is a very good life skill to learn. LastPass is another good alternative. That's free, but 1Password is kind of expensive, but if you get it for free with Euro Plus, that's a win. So that's another good tip. This is another sneaky one, but a very good one. Use it sparingly. It's called emergency bypass mode. So you can, like, I'll use my son as an example. I could take his phone, I have the code, open up his phone, go to contacts, and find Dad. And I can, and this is my screenshot of that, I can change the ringtone and the text tone to be emergency bypass on. That means if his ringer is off, that means if his volume is down all the way, my call will be as loud as possible, and it doesn't matter what happens. So he's always going to hear when Dad calls. And also vice versa. If you're like, my son's going away for camp, my daughter is going away to this, I never want to miss a call when he or she is at that thing. Well, in your own phone, you can go to the contact for your son or daughter and turn on emergency bypass so that no matter what your phone is set to, you will always hear about it. So, make sure you use location sharing. Google Family Link by Google. There's a link for setting that up. And Find My app for Apple devices. I can pull up where my son or daughter are at all times. I can have the phone ping me to say they've arrived at high school. They just got downtown to hang out with their friends. That's what geofences are. When they enter or leave an area, you can be notified. And so that can be helpful too if you have little ones that are getting off the bus and are letting themselves in their house. My kids did that for years. I always loved knowing when they got home. So, also that $19 camera has like two-way audio and a microphone, so you can say, hey, welcome home, like it's very fun. So, last thing is bedtime. Setting up focus modes. This is an easy one to remember because Android and Apple call it the same thing. They both call it focus. A focus mode on Apple is Do Not Disturb. You can set it up, and I have a link right here for setting it up. But if you go to your settings and go into focus, there it is for Do Not Disturb. You have to have their device to set this up. But set it up and pick a time and schedule it so that it turns on at a specific time during the school week. Or heck, even every day. You can play with the times and set it so that there are no badge notifications. It's just a toggle button. So even when it's in Do Not Disturb mode, even though I may have 800 unread emails, but don't tell anyone that. When I'm in Do Not Disturb mode, that badge goes away. Do I have unread text messages? I don't know, because the badge is on. Does my phone ring at all during that time? No, except for my wife and my kids. Those are the only ones that can reach me when I'm in Do Not Disturb. So, and that's all configured on just one screen on your phone, using Google Focus or Apple Focus. And we made it, and it's only 7 minutes past an hour. So, thank you so much. I feel like I've talked way too fast, and I tried to give you as many details as possible. But remember, if you go all the way back to this screen, there are many levels of protection. There is network level, protects your whole house. There's device level, that protects the individual device and limits it. There's app level, and then there's physical level. So those are all the different layers we talked about. Now we're into questions. Go.
This is more of a comment. I probably know a few people here that have Androids, and my son has an Android.
Yes?
We have Verizon, when he got his phone, and because he's under 13, it automatically, when we started it up, set it up with parental controls.
Yeah.
And when we did that, we said no to all social media. And then when we downloaded the Google link on our phone, you check all the apps, and it had said yes at all times to TikTok. So make sure to double check that.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, we blocked it.
Yes,
But-
that's smart. Yeah, I was looking at Family Link. It's actually,
It's very similar to
Oh,
what we have on the
yes.
screen.
it's very, very similar, which is great. Competition's great. They're keeping in lockstep with each other. My clerk, she has it set up with her kids, and I'm like, I was so eager. I'm like, show me all of it, please. And I was like, this looks great. I can't take screenshots of it because this isn't my device, but it's very straightforward. And again, you go to this site, it'll pull up this exact Google slide, And there are links to Google Family Link to set all that up too. Other questions? You guys have been a great audience and we're almost at 8. Yes. And then,
Can you talk about text messages? Like how do we limit or monitor or watch out for those? I use the Apple settings, that one, except it limits all of the apps except messages. For some reason it doesn't work.
so you can limit, you can set a time limit on messages, and that's what I do. And it will also, in the contact settings, so back here, right there, under communication limits, you can say only people that are in their contacts can contact them. So you can do that too. What this free system or the Family Link system, what it won't do is it won't give you a readout of every text message. It will not do that. There are services that are pricey that will do that. I have not gotten to the point where I actually feel the need to do that. And I also have tried to establish a good rapport with my kids to be like, hey, we're in this together. But occasionally, just so you know, I'm gonna look at your phone and I'm gonna tell you when I did it. And so I told my son, I'm like, hey, you were in the shower. I was looking at your phone because I love you and I'm your dad. And I just want to make sure things are cool. And he was like, it's cool. I know you do it, but I appreciate you letting me know. And that's been okay. That's been working pretty good for us so far. But that is a limitation of this for sure. You go back to my end. You didn't get that set down. Other questions? There was one right here.
So the one where like the emergency phone call goes through whenever,
Yep.
how do you, is that on any tech phone? Because we have the Android.
You could do that too. You can
Okay.
absolutely do that too. So it's just modifying your ringtone. There should be when you choose like what sound for the ringtone or the text tone, there likely will be an option for emergency bypass.
So if I put up like the do not disturb, those numbers will still come through.
So that's in the do not disturb settings where you say always allow. That's a good question. What trumps what? I think ultimately the focus for Google Android or Apple iOS, the focus is what wins. And so I would make sure that your kid's partner or spouse can always reach you when you're in do not disturb focus, just as a precaution.
Okay.
So, other questions? Yes?
I just have one comment. One nice thing about that Google Family Link is you can see their location.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's part of Family Link. So with Apple, it's a separate app that's by default on every phone called Find My. But inside the Family Link is absolutely location awareness. Yeah, that's why at the very end, location sharing, that's what the icon looks like. It's like kite. It's great. And inside of there is where location data is. So it's a process, but I encourage you, start the process. And if you start and continue, try. It's something that will change over time. Establish a dialogue with your kids. And as long as they know what the system is, and you're responsive, and it ebbs and flows, it can be a really good relationship, and technology doesn't have to be a hindrance, it can be actually a help, and can really set them up for adulthood to not be slaves of these things, but actually let them be tools like they're supposed to be. So, thanks again. I'll be down here if you have more questions.